Hi, everyone. Good afternoon, and thank you for uh, joining us for this, I hope, a very engaging panel. And first of all, I'd like to welcome both of you, our panelists. Sridhar, obviously, you're a stalwart in this industry, and you have implemented very good initiatives towards better and sustainable packaging. And so you are leading one of the biggest FMCG companies, food brands in the country. So really excited to hear your perspectives on how you have been implementing recyclability, recyclates, the use of recyclates in your packaging. So maybe we can start with you, Sridhar. Before we were talking about the switch from from plastic to paper in some of the products that ITC has recently made. So can you talk to us about that? Is that the approach that you're taking as a company, and maybe also highlight some of the other initiatives that ITC has taken towards more circular, sustainable packaging?
Okay. Thank you. Thanks to Mr. Naresh Khanna for having me here. So one example that I think I should talk about is the journey that we took up for Sunfeast, for Ashirvad Atta, right? Especially the 1 kg pack of the Ashirvad organic atta. It took us a couple of years to try and see, what can be done to change from plastic to paper. Definitely, paperization seems to be the trend even globally, right? So we, like everybody else, we also thought we can take a primary pack and try and convert it. But then the key aspect in that journey was definitely in reaching the barrier properties required. Paper is a very porous material. It certainly cannot match the OTR, WTR requirements that a product has. So what we did was we said, let's at least try and reduce the quantum of plastic. So that's been the first approach in trying to reduce the overall consumption of plastic or the usage of plastic, and especially also because you heard the EPR norms, it's all on plastic packaging. So it helps you to reduce the overall plastic that you're putting out into the market. So when we did that attempt, we have now changed the 1 kg organic atta. Around 40% of plastic has been reduced. Okay, it is still a paper plus plastic kind of a laminate. So from 100% plastic laminate to paper plus plastic is what has happened. Uh, okay, the biggest challenge that we had to overcome in that is that people still do not change their way of handling packaging, right? You still need that 1.2 meter drop test, 5 different drop tests, which is designed for plastic. It can take all those drop tests, but paper cannot. So definitely, we have to work on the kind of paper which is required for that. That's the point number one. Point number two is it's going to be far more expensive. So you need a lot of backing and drive from the senior most management, that vision to say, I'm willing to take up this cost because it's much less compared to what the environment otherwise has to pay or what the ecosystem has to pay. So I think that was the first approach. Second, you asked us about the paperization journey itself. Globally, we have observed, and also in India, what we are now trying to do is secondary packaging, which is currently in plastic, where barrier properties are not required, that is moving out of plastic and getting into paper. So you would have seen the recent launch of Sunfeast biscuits, 800 gram of individually packed biscuit packets, which have the barrier properties in the primary plastic packaging, but the secondary has moved into a craft paper pack. So that's the approach today.
Great. I do have some questions, but I think I'll give you an opportunity to start, Shubhra, about what Yum Foods and some of the brands that you. So just tell us, like, are you dealing with just Yum Foods or all of the brands within the umbrella?
All the brands, all the brands.
And so, what are the initiatives that have been taken place towards just sustainable packaging in general, and then we can unpack, the more nitty-gritties of those initiatives.
Right. First of all, good afternoon. So it's a see if I talk about this entire gamut of our product line. So we have certain products which is our own brand. So 2 is of course one of the snacks brand. And other than that brands, we have retail segment also. Spencer's as well as Nature's Basket. So I'll talk about first brand per se. Otherwise, the ball game is totally different when I talk about brand and when I talk about retail segment. So yes, initially RP Sanjeev Goenka Group has started this journey with 2 brand, but gradually we have now personal care segment also. We have Naturally is our brand, which is a personal care segment, as well as we have recently launched Within Beauty. It's our D2C segment brand. And we have Ayurveda segment also. Dr. Vaidya we have recently acquired. Not recently, 3 years back we have taken over and we are creating another brand also there. So if I talk about all these brands, so as Sridhar sir mentioned, so our target also, to reduce plastic. That's the, primary and most probably is the easiest way to contribute something, without changing much. Yes, the changing parameters are of course your product shelf life as well as drop test as you mentioned. So these are some trigger points we have to honor. So what we did, we haven't changed entire plastic consumption and all our in 2M also we have different categories. We have multigrain chips, we have potato chips, we have karare, which is a kind of baked kurkure you can say. So we haven't targeted all the material at one go. Suppose the most, the trade velocity is high. The product, if I talk about, our karare is one segment and potato chips. So we have targeted there. So first we have tried how to reduce the overall GSM. Maybe it's a poly thickness also, or maybe it's a PET layer, top layer also we have. So we tried to figure out all this. So I don't want to get into all these details, but thing is that on the broader note, we have targeted that and gradually we have implemented. So one product we have multigrain chips. So in multigrain chips, if you see the chips, it has 4 edges. Edges are very sharp. So if you drastically reduce the thickness, so it may hit on the wall and there will be other related problems. So that's one way to approach. And second thing, of course, in secondary packaging, we have done lot of exercises. Because secondary packaging is something which is not necessary, you should keep it equal in every distance. Maybe you have a 100-kilometer periphery, so you can at least something you can do to reduce overall cost as well as overall consumption of paper. So maybe you need not to give the same RCT of the paper and overall CS, maybe you can compromise. So these exercises we have done, and wherever possible we try to club all the SKUs. So we have targeted primary packaging from that reduction point of view, and from that secondary packaging we have to try to do some sort of collaboration so that we can save some paper. And it's a, of course, contribution to ultimately it's a in environment. So that's two approaches we have taken. And a third thing is we have taken on sustainability point of view also. So in sustainability point of view, we are trying to develop something with, of course, partners. We have a partnership with different converters like UFX, Utamaki, all. In fact, Constantia also we have spoken once. So thing is that we are trying to do something, but of course the affordability, the easily availability, these two factors we have still under discussion from cost point of view. Ultimately, we are the answerable to brand owners, right? We are just the face of that brand owner. So if it is hitting on my bottom line, I'm answerable, right? So these things are happening. So this is a broad prospect from the brand point of view. Still, I'll talk about gradually once we start our discussion. I'll talk about on Nature's Basket and Spencer's also what we have contributed.
Great. Those are already great initiatives. And I see a theme that both of you talk about reducing the use of plastics. And I know we talked about this offline, and even some of the presenters before us mentioned that the footprint of some of the alternatives may be larger. So I want to understand where you have used alternatives, like for example, paper. Has that decision been made based on some, life cycle analysis to ensure that, that's not true, that you're not actually increasing the impact? And also, the packaging that, like for example, you mentioned that it is a paper plus plastic structure. Is that then recyclable, and are we setting up the right infrastructures for that to be collected and to be recycled?
Both excellent questions. This is like I'm waiting for a pace ball and suddenly there's a spin ball bowled at me.
There are no softballs from me.
Exactly. Okay, let me answer the first question. Okay, no, life cycle analysis is a much touted about term, right? Almost everybody talks about it. If you slightly delve deeper into it, it clearly says you will have to define the scope and define the boundary, right? I can take two comparable papers itself and do an LCA and come up with completely different numbers, right? Because the scope and boundary definition is very, very different, right? But then when you do look at packaging, yes, you can look at LCA for paper and LCA for plastic. It depends on who has done the study, right?
Exactly.
So if we do the study, we will say, look, paper actually comes out better. If a plastic company does the study, they'll say it comes out better. Both of us send it for peer reviews. The peer also being from the same industry might say something similar. But the primary aspect of what is driving this change is that the overall global consumer perception that paper packaging is okay, it's good, plastic packaging is bad. Somewhere people have gotten that into their mind. I would say neither is bad or neither is good. Like somebody spoke before me, they said it depends on how well you are able to segregate at source itself. Like in my house, if I can segregate and discard, both are eminently collectible and recyclable, right? Somehow we have failed to do that as a global society. But the key differentiator is that when you look at paper or paper packaging, its raw material is perennially renewable,
Right.
right? So that's where the basic difference comes, that it's naturally occurring, it's grown on farmlands, it's actually contributing to farm livelihoods. So it's farmer livelihoods that we are contributing to when you buy every kg of paper. So its raw material is perennially renewable. And from time immemorial, you would have found that people have been collecting and recycling paper. From the Radiwala who comes to your house, he will still pay you 10 rupees or 8 rupees for your 1 kg of newspaper or cartons or corrugated boxes. There has always been a very well settled value chain. Almost in the last 60, 70 years, the glass bottle, the steel or metal packaging, and paper packaging, collection and recycling stream is very well established.
Right.
So there is value for the person across the chain who's collecting it.
Right.
These are two big benefits as far as paper packaging is concerned. Of course, LCA studies still have to mature to say exactly what the numbers are.
Yeah.
We'll come to that later. The second question which you asked, it is something which we'll have to study. Yes, we built it into it. While designing, we did build in the recycling aspect. But yes, you are right. If there are going to be more and more structures where paper and plastic is going to get married, we have to look at the design stage itself as to how can somebody identify it and send it to the right recycling stream. That seems to be the critical point to be addressed. I'm not sure if it has been done completely, but that is something which we'll have to bear in mind.
Great, and we appreciate your candidness in admitting that. I think ITC is especially well positioned to because you already, like you said, have as a group have paper recycling, built into your DNA from the very beginning. So I'm sure even from calculating the GHG impact level, ITC takes advantage of that. So from your perspective, Shubhra, you talked about reducing, plastic. So let's sort of divide this into from a design stage, what can we do to ensure that every packaging that we are making goes into the recycling streams, right? So before this, some of the speakers spoke about monomaterials. Are we exploring formats like that for food packaging? Are MLPs here to stay? And are we finding solutions for those to be better recycled?
No, see, it's not about my organization or as a packaging fraternity. I'm talking about this is from brand, non-brand owners also who are responsible to manufacturer anything which contributes as a wastage to nation. So we have to see from that angle in from all the verticals. It's not about the we are using so we have to take care or something like that from the design per se because you have mentioned about the design. So on offering also, maybe I am a laminate producer. While offering, the first and foremost target should be I should offer something which is recyclable or something which is not, we are talking about sustainable. So that prime focus, I know there will be cost pressure.
Right.
But to set the discussion, somewhere as a fraternity, as an industry, we should start talking from that point. Otherwise, this cost difference will be always there. Today, it is unaffordable because we start talking from baseline. मुझे तो 220 में ही चाहिए लेमिनेट पर केजी we start from that. But what are the value addition? What we are talking about next generation? So absolute point of discussion, it should start from that point. So that is one basic thing as an industry we should start talking. Otherwise this cost is not going to come down. That is 100% sure. We know today the solutions are there. Plastic is not a bad material. Everyone knows. The usage, the process, the recyclable, mode. These are lacking somewhere. So that's why we are moving to paper. So 100 years back, we took that initiative, to use plastic to save trees. Again, we are talking about, to cut trees. So it's like this. So it's a cycle, right? So somewhere we have to take that initiative, and I know it's not going to be a very easy task. Prior to this organization, I was with Redico. So Redico Khaitan is an alcohol industry. So we have developed that ecosystem. This recycle PET bottles, glass bottles, how this supply chain has to come. Of course, the quantum was very huge. Maybe for the alcohol industry, it is easier to use that glass bottles or recycled PET.
Right.
And the way ITC has taken this initiative to make their own system. So these few things we must put in our DNA. Otherwise, the things will not. We'll talk. We'll do this kind of conferences every year. But end of the day, we'll not get anything from from sustainable point of view, which is easily affordable. So that is one point I want to highlight. Otherwise, as an industry, we should come in a same platform.
Agreed. And Sridhar, have you seen any initiatives within ITC? I know you're with the paper boards, but either with the plastic division or some other packaging divisions where they have moved certain products to monomaterials, or there is a plan to move these to monomaterials to make it more recyclable?
Okay. Monomaterial, that work is still going. We have a life sciences and technology center. I think there are some, I don't know how many hundreds of scientists in Bangalore who are working on this. So there is one team which is working on monomaterial kind of one. But I think what we have achieved greater success is, I think, in our shampoo bottle, introducing recycled plastic into it.
In rigid packaging.
In rigid packaging. I think that's where the greater success has been. But otherwise, okay, our DNA, we are always there for ITC. So the first approach is always trying to see if can there be a paper board or a paper-based solution. As he was saying, 100 years ago, before plastics came in, people were cutting trees, but now it's from farm plantations.
Right.
There's not a single company, even in India or even globally, who will go and do a deforestation for paper.
Right.
The kind of trees which we need is not available in a forest. You'll have to grow them.
Right.
And the type of fiber which is required is designed at that stage, and this kind of tree is grown on a particular soil, right? Or the sapling is modified for the various types of soils. So it is still going to be paperization is going. I read a recent survey which says almost 42% of global packaging, plastics including rigids, flexible, is looking at paperization as an alternative.
Right.
It's the first thing that they are looking at. Definitely, almost all of them are looking at going back to monomaterial
Right.
as far as flexible laminates are concerned. But there doesn't seem to be much of a problem with rigids because rigids are anyway collected and recycled.
Yes.
And they are only trying to increase the quantum of recycled material into rigid packaging. So I think these are the three different directions in which almost everybody is working. And yes, we are also looking at monomaterial based flexible laminates. Yes.
Just to add what you have said, so you have mentioned that paper versus plastic. So it's not for the larger audience because there will be many producer of paper also. So thing is that we are not talking about it's a paper versus plastic. We are talking about something which is sustainable, more sustainable, where we should not hamper our ecological balance. That's the target. So we are not talking stop using plastic or stop using paper.
Yeah.
It's never going to, because the day you start with your toothbrush, it's made of plastic. So you cannot eliminate. So there has to be plastic. It cannot be 100%. There are wooden toothbrush and everything is coming, but it's not 100% viable. Everyone knows. So thing is that how to minimize that. So that's the I want to reset the context. Otherwise, there may be discrepancies. I am trying to
Promote paper.
promote paper versus yeah.
On that note, I want to, since we have only about 8 minutes left, I want to open it up to the audience if you have any questions, because I have a few, but yes, please, sir. There's a question, yeah. Okay. Please, can you identify yourself and your company?
Yeah, hi, this is Samir, Samir Udane. I'm from Kimberly Clark. Just one question to the Sridhar. You said that global consumer perception is that, paper packaging is much sustainable compared to the plastic packaging. I can say this understanding is okay with the country like US, Europe, where we have, their countries are much developed and they can offer higher pricing on the packaging. And also they have a lot of forest, correct? But just consider the scenario for the India, where we are underdeveloped country and most of the people cannot offer the higher pricing on the packaging. So, and forest also is major concern for us. So how we can justify that having the paper packaging is much sustainable than the plastic packaging?
Let me first address the forest, which you mentioned twice in your question. There is no relation to paper industry and forests. Get that very clearly with you. There is not a single kg of paper which can come from a forest-based tree in India. It's completely protected. We are around 20 million tons of production, almost equal to plastic if you look at primary production of paper.
Okay.
Every kg comes from farmer-raised plantations. In India, hardwood comes from eucalyptus, subabul, and casuarina. Any company you take, it comes from farmer-raised plantations. Every 4th year, the farmer can harvest, and that is how we get our pulp. I'll give you a simple number, just to prove to you why it cannot come from forest. ITC's paperboards division alone makes 1,200 tons of pulp per day. There is no forest from which such material can come. It has to be grown. Okay? So more than 1 million acres has been covered. So there is greening of land which happens. So every kg of paper globally and in India comes from farmer-grown plantations. Like how a farmer grows rice, wheat, tomato, brinjal, and bindi. He grows pulpwood also and gives it to us. Right? So that's point number one. Just to answer your question about India and rest of the world, I would request you to go look at it's a publicly available McKinsey Global Consumer Research on packaging perceptions. If you look at that research study, 2023 research of McKinsey, they have looked at all the advanced countries that you have looked at. India is also part of that research. They have gone and asked consumers which according to you is the most sustainable packaging that you see in India. Top 3 is taken by glass and paper. Third is rigid plastics. You'll be surprised. The Indian consumer is very well aware. And then only comes the rest of it. So it's not that in India they can't afford. I mean, you'll be surprised that, BMW is doubling its manufacturing capacity. The number of SUVs that's being sold in the country today, and everybody is talking about the next 100 million most richest Indians emerging out of this country. It's not that they can't afford. People are willing to pay more in India if we can communicate to them how sustainable my packaging is and what efforts the brand is taking towards such sustainability. I'll give you our own example. Sunfeast, for Ashirwad Atta, 2.5 times is the increase in packaging cost. Tell me one packaging manager whom we met today who will agree to this. They won't. But the overall cost to the environment is far higher if we don't do it today. It's going to hit us very badly in the next 4 to 5 years to come. So the consumer is willing to pay, only that we have failed to communicate it to them properly. That's where I would say is.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree that we're taking this nuanced approach. And obviously, I seem to be stuck in the middle of this paper versus plastic debate.
Let me quickly clarify. A few years ago, most of the conference organizers, especially Indian Institute of Packaging, from which I hail, love to pitch paper versus plastic. We are far more mature now.
Yes.
Both these packaging materials are going to coexist.
Yes.
Right? When I was a student of packaging, I'm from the 1987 batch, third batch of IIP. Very, very antiquated batch. I did a paper on glass packaging. That time itself, my professor told me, oh, glass is anyway going to die. Glass is still not died. Glass is still there as packaging. It's the most preferred, most sustainable one which is available today. And it is still there. So like that, it will continue to coexist. We are only trying to see how best to extract sustainability out of both these substrates. So please, it's not paper versus plastic. It's always going to be paper with plastic.
Agreed. And maybe the approach is that, like you said, maybe for the more premium products, where we can afford to do away, where paper, where plastic can be done away with, and the consumer can absorb the cost of, like you said, 2.5 cost for the Ashirwad Atta packaging. Maybe that's where we start with the interventions, and then roll them out slowly to the more lower cost.
No, I would, like he was talking about, 220 rupees a kg laminate,
Yeah.
Slowly, many of us are realizing it's no longer 220 rupees a kg laminate. It's 220 rupees per kg laminate, plus probably 10 rupees per kg for EPR cost.
Agreed.
Where are you going to buy that credit from? It's not going to come free.
Agreed.
Right?
Yes.
And then they also said, if you are selling it to a registered user, then they have to take care of it. No registered user is going to pay money out of his pocket. He is going to drive it down the chain back to us. Because you are giving me something in plastic and I have to collect for it, you pay me for that is what he's going to say. So the cost is not just what you pay to procure material, the cost is what you pay for future use of that material also.
Yes, agreed. So you have a question now, please.
Yeah, hi. This is Dr. Matinullah. Basically, you know very well about Wattpack. I'm from Wattpack only, so. I just want to share one good successful story with ITC. The other division of ESPB, there's a notebook. Okay, recently we have developed one concept which eliminating the primary packing of your sink wrap to a carton box, which is RRP, retail ready packaging.
Okay.
It's completely eliminating the plastic and going towards the RRP, which saves the cost as well as the environment. So that is the big things has happened now in the month of January 24 only. And now when it comes to the paper, the forest and everything, okay, 70% of the paper is used as a recycled one.
Right.
30% is virgin pulp. So the virgin pulp is like an FSC, Forest Stewardship Council. This is a chain of control. It comes from Sweden or Finland. So India doesn't grow that particular thing. That we used to be import even the recycled pulp also and the virgin pulp also. That's the main thing of the paper. So that's it. So thank you.
Great, thank you for that input. Do we have a last?
Thank you. This is Conan Shahidi from Almarai Company. The question is, sir, normally when we talk about paper packaging, the consumer perception, even for all of us, is also that paper is coming from the trees, mainly the bamboo trees or also it is. The latest trend has come up creating paper from the normal grass. So how far ITC is working on that? And do you think it is feasible to move forward using paper or materials from the grass? Thank you.
Okay, the industry will not even look, I mean, we are looking at it for some lower end applications, right? Simply because the industry is anyway getting it from a renewable natural source. Farmers are growing and every year they can harvest and they've been giving us pulp. So it is something like grass only. So as I told you, for India, it's eucalyptus, subabul and casuarina. The gentleman mentioned about Forest Stewardship Council. All the paper companies in India are registered for FSC chain of custody. So basically what we are trying to say is, if you show me a carton and tell me the lot number of my paper, I can take you back to the GPS coordinates of the farm plot from which the tree has been sourced. And every farmer who is growing it for us is registered under this Forest Stewardship Council chain of custody thing, right? Without that, you cannot process, you cannot manufacture, you cannot survive in the industry if you do not do this, right? Even your plyboards today, your century laminates, all of them depend on farmer-grown pulpwood. It's a means of livelihood, it's a source of livelihood. Having said that, the gentleman was right to say that 70-30, you need that ratio of virgin pulp coming into the stream, into the ecosystem for so much of recycling to happen. Paper can be recycled around 4 to 6 times. There is around 18 to 20% of agri-residue. So there is a separate association of Agricultural Residue Paper Manufacturers Association, which is used for many of the lower end of packaging and writing applications. At the premium end of packaging will be virgin fiber based paper boards, like say for your cosmetics and for your food packaging. Let's say for the agarbatti and matches would be the recycled paperboard packaging. At the lower end for wrappers and all that would be craft and other stuff. So at every stage, whether it's recycled or agri-residue or pulpwood based, it depends on the end-use application on which paper is being used. And this has been around for many decades actually. So I would say most of the research today is being done more on how to play around with cellulose itself as a material to build in some barrier properties. So if you ask me, cutting edge technology would be one on nanocellulose, which we think is the next level of a naturally occurring fiber, which can be grown in a renewable manner and also offering some amount of barrier properties. That's the next level that's being worked on. While this is there, agri-residue is there, pulpwood is there, but the next is nanocellulose. Probably 2 years later, I'll be talking to you about nanocellulose and not just cellulose. Yeah.
Great, thank you for that. So we've been told we've run out of time. So thank you for all your amazing questions. I would just like both of you to, close today's discussion with your parting thoughts on where you see the future of, circular packaging in terms of designing for recyclability and recycled content use, particularly in food products. How do you see that future evolving? If you can maybe take 30 seconds to, share your last parting views on that.
No, definitely, circular economy is very important. Otherwise, the way things are happening today, we are talking about 30%, virgin paper we are adding. So maybe it can grow also sometimes because everything has its bottleneck. So now, maybe we have started or something has been started. So we are still at 30%. If suddenly, just imagine 90% producer or consumer, we use most of our plastic and we switch to paper, what will happen? So maybe, this practice, good practice is very important and we should think about circular economy and we should design. And as a development person, I always take this, advantage in my organizations, wherever I worked or where I'm working, less is more. So we have to design our packaging in that way. I must thank Diageo. They have taken this pledge, to remove 100% mono cartons. So something we should think on that line. Less is more. So that is my pledge, and I think that's the way forward plan.
And you, Sridhar?
I don't know if I can answer that in 30 seconds, but I think the key gap, all of us might go back to our labs and our machines and design packaging for the circular economy. But the person or I, when I am going to discard a packaging waste in my house, if I am not going to segregate, even at the basic level, say for example, I come from a complex in Hyderabad, okay, your I don't think he is a competitor any longer. Bintix is the guy who collects. He doesn't touch it if it's the waste is mixed.
Right.
So on a daily basis, the wet waste is collected. On a weekly basis, the dry waste is collected. Bag given by Bintix with a code on it. And that is read. The weight is taken. On a quarterly basis, there's some money which comes into my bank account. Right? So they are incentivizing this habit of segregation at source.
Right.
Which is the foundation on which the circular packaging economy is going to be built. That is point number one. I think point number two, where Banyan Nation is already doing some work, is in educating the rag picker about what are the types of packaging and what can be collected and where there is value, so that he also starts making money, which can then be brought back and circulated. If at these two levels, which means you and I in our house and the rag picker, if we can educate him about circular economy. For example, the guy who takes out waste from my house, he's now done his diploma in computer science.
That's great.
10 years down the line, there is nobody who's going to come and pick it up for you. You will be told to segregate and you go and put it out somewhere else. So I think it's time we learn to do that at source, so that we can actually start designing for a circular packaging economy.
I think those are great thoughts to end this session with. Thank you again. And I hope we can carry this message of starting at the very generation point of waste, and then ensuring that all the designing and everything is built for circularity. So thank you, everyone.